All right, so let's get straight into it. We're going to be starting this morning on the Punch newspapers to share with you what the major stories are. There it says, federal government may revoke land allocations and demolish 6,000 buildings and slums. And that, of course, is with the new FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, the former governor of Rivers State. Illegal buildings must go down, Wike tells ministers, ambassadors, and others. Slums in Yanya, Apo, and Idu, 27 others may be affected. Residents beg minister. A little, frightening, to be honest, but we'll see how it turns out. Tinubu warns ministers against ethnic politics. Appointees unveil agenda. I want to reunite with Boko Haram husband, says the Chibok girl. Navy arrests 10 oil thieves with over 100 jerry cans. And also, federal government may raise $17 billion from oil asset sale. Government to revive Ajaokota Steel Umahi plans road inspection. They say it is every 4 years. Every new government that comes into office says the same thing about Ajaokota Steel Complex. Interesting. All right. And board chairman, MDs buy additional 145 billion naira bank shares. Mr. Mbamalu, I think you can take two stories as quickly as possible. Let's start with the federal government may revoke land allocations and demolish 6,000 buildings and slums with Nyesom Wike as new minister, and also the Ajaokota Steel discussion. All right. Can you hear us, Mr. Mbamalu? All right, we seem to be struggling with the connection. Once again, I hope that this doesn't define Breakfast Central for the rest of today, but we of course will continue to fight with it.
But I think one story that stands out for me is I want to reunite with Boko Haram husband, says Chibok girls. Just a reminder of how we failed these young women. And now a number of them, what was done to them as abuse now seems normal. It has now become some of them's reality. And she wants to return to a life that she didn't choose for herself. It's just a really unfortunate situation.
All right, Mr. Mbamalu, can you hear us? I still can't. All right. But yes, that's a big story. And of course, the Tinubu warns ministers against ethnic politics. Appointees unveil agenda. Yeah, I'm hoping, that they also understand that. But it might be a little hard, seeing the way that Nigerian politics has been played in the last, roughly the last 8 years. I'm going to push it to say, okay, maybe even 8, 9 years. There's been a lot of ethnicity. There's been a lot of bigotry that has, of course, been spewed. Even worse in the last, 1 year during the electoral process, that, of course, has brought this new government into office. There's been a lot of that. There's also been criticism, about the number of Southeasterners that were appointed in the ministerial list. So ethnic politics, I don't think we will completely rid ourselves of that just like that. And also appointees that unveil agenda, what really will they be making sure that they do? And one question I think is also important to ask is, at what point do we say that a minister has failed or a ministry is failing? What are the parameters for judging a successful ministry? Those are things that we also need to look at, because nobody wants to wait 2 years or 3 years or 4 years to, have a dormant ministry and then say it failed. We could have, fixed it.
It's a waste of time, taxpayers' time and money.
Yeah. Ms. Mbamalu, I don't know if you can hear us now. All right. So that's the story. Those are the stories on the Punch. We're going to move away from the Punch and go to the next paper this morning, which is The Nation.
All right. On the front page of The Nation newspaper, Vice President Shetima in Johannesburg for BRICS Summit. Like we mentioned earlier, the BRICS Summit commences today. A lot is going to be on the agenda of the BRICS Summit in terms of, how their conversations about strengthening their own currency to ensure that they can de-dollarize the, certain parts of the world, having seen that they hold a strong amount of the percentage of the world's population. About 40% of the world's population, are from the BRICS countries. More countries are looking to join them, but we'll definitely follow up with the BRICS Summit and see how that turns out. How we will implement Tinubu's agenda by ministers. Cabinet members lay out priority areas. President demands performance, urges restoration of faith in government. We also have here still on the front page, 5 electrocuted, 4 hospitalized while erecting billboard. That's an unfortunate story there. There's some papers here and some stories here that aren't quite clear. I won't allow red tape to halt my plans. I'm not quite sure that this is clear, so I think we're just going to... Ohanes and women will enjoy good times. I'm going to skip that one and go to the top of the paper. Nigeria's net foreign reserves at $3.7 billion, says JP Morgan. What Fagbemi should do as AGF by legal giants. FIRS steps up plan to prevent tax evasion by firms. Osun staff audit stalled by Assembly's election. These are the stories this morning on the front page of the Nation newspaper. We move away from the Nation to our next paper.
Yeah, the Daily Sun comes up next. It says, as Tinubu inaugurates cabinet, Wike reveals how PDP governors recommended 10 ministers. President asks appointees to serve with integrity, dignity, and deliver on promises. FCT minister talks tough, vows to restore Abuja master plan. What exactly is the Abuja master plan, and how does Nyesom Wike know the Abuja master plan? And you know what really is, his connection with the Abuja master plan?
Well, if you look at his antecedents, if you look at his achievements, he's done a lot in terms of setting up bridges and infrastructure in River State. And I'm sure he wants to replicate that in Abuja, in FCT as well, to see that they have quality.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, nobody is going to run from having better roads and better, infrastructure. No one would.
If I've been honest, the
want
FCT has done better than a lot of states in that regard.
Yes, there's also been talk of how it has also depreciated in the last couple of years because there wasn't proper management of the FCT. So it's back and forth, but there's also the part where people then fear that there would be some personal moves that would be made, that would also infringe on the rights of the people who live there, residents of Abuja. So, I mean, I'm sure that there is an actual Abuja master plan, but we're hoping that it is for the betterment of the lives of the people who are resident there, not just for, personal aggrandizement and, pockets to be filled. But I'm sure that, yes, Nyesom Wike would have the same drive that he had with River State, in building infrastructure. Let's just see how it goes. I don't want to, dig too deep into Nyesom Wike.
Yeah, okay.
But also on the Daily Sun this morning, a few other stories that we can quickly throw at you on the Daily Sun. It says over there that Obi denies reports of coalition with Kwankwaso and Atiku. I saw that story yesterday. Robbers kill POS operators in Imo State. We can also find here, youths won't be patient when resources are being looted. CSOs warn federal government. Federal government comments NDDC on budget process. Gunmen kill livestock guard commander in Benue State. And also Nigeria broke, declares JP Morgan. Says our FX reserves estimated at $3.7 billion. Listen to that again. Initially, we had imagine that we had our FX reserves, our foreign reserves, as high as, I think at some point it was about 33, billion. And then, of course, with the recent breaking stories about loans that were taken by the CBN, it dropped to something about 13 or 12 billion dollars. Now, JP Morgan is saying that it actually is about $3.7 billion. So, yes, the Ministry of Finance has, a lot of work, on its hands. And of course, Nigeria at this point needs to do a lot of, work in order to be able to get our money, get our, foreign reserves back up and be able to, to raise more money, basically. All right, these are the stories on the Daily Sun this morning, and it's mostly still centered around the new ministers and how what pace Nigeria would be taking moving forward.
All right, let's move over to the next paper and see what the Guardian newspaper has. Operators unsettled over Tinubu's hold on Petroleum Ministry. Now, it's not the first time. This has been the order of the day from the governments before him, from President Olusegun Obasanjo's time to Jonathan and Buhari and now him. We have seen that the presidency has always, in some measure, Jonathan didn't have that, right? Okay, anyway, but we've seen that this has been the order of the day in administrations before
former President Obasanjo and then President Buhari.
Then him, yes. So the question is, people often wonder, like, why exactly do they feel they need to hold on to it? Of course, there's the aspect of, because it's a major source of our revenue.
Doesn't matter.
They don't want, but the thing is, is there nobody that you can trust?
Yeah, I think it's mostly because they want to be the ones in control. Any signatories need to go through them. Any paperwork needs to be approved by them. Basically, I think that's where it's centered around. They want to ensure that they are in control of Nigeria's major, earning,
yeah.
resource, and nobody else is able to make decisions on their behalf. That's majorly what it is, which is still wrong, because you're president. You should be focused on other things,
Focus on your executive duties as president.
You may as well also hold on to, the power ministry and hold on to every other, so that you sign all the papers by yourself. But, I was saying it earlier that I feel like these are also signs that the current administration doesn't understand the work that needs to be done. They don't seem to appreciate the urgency with which Nigeria needs to be fixed. If we are a football team, for example, and we're currently 19th in the league, and you are still going to bring in a coach and bring in facilities that will, maybe keep us around 19th position, maybe will make us get relegated, then it means that you do not understand the urgency with which Nigeria needs to be fixed.
Also,
That's my
it's just, they say
interpretation.
that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and then expecting a change.
Hmm.
If the previous administration did this, and if you look at our oil sector, it's not like we've made much progress in that regard. How about trying something different?
But so the thing, it's not like, a person being president and, petroleum minister automatically means, it's not like it automatically means, but I'm just saying.
There's a lot that needs to be done in the country in the first place. The work of governance, the work of, being a president. I feel like there's too much to handle.
Yeah.
That's why.
So you might as well have given it to somebody.
Exactly. Part of the tenets of great leadership is being able to delegate, which is why he has a cabinet in the first place.
Yeah.
That handles these different areas. Anyway.
Yeah, there is that, and then, not just that one, the other ministries also, Nigerians are really, really eager. And like I said before, what is the time frame that we're giving ministers, so that we can tell?
Days?
Because if you remember, former President Muhammadu Buhari had someone minister for 8 years, did absolutely nothing, brought absolutely nothing to the table. And it's not just one ministry. I'm talking about a lot of them that were there as ministers for 8 years and did absolutely nothing. The ministries didn't grow. Nigeria didn't develop in those areas, but they weren't fired, they weren't replaced, they weren't changed. They stayed there for 8 years, and so are we going to have the same experience now as Nigerians? Are we going to see that someone has been minister for health, for example, and we do not see an improvement in primary health care, we do not see an improvement in emergency service, we don't see improvement in medical facilities generally across the country? And we go 3 years, 4 years,
and nothing
changes.
Is done. They don't,
exactly. We continue to see doctors going on strike. We continue to see maternal and infant mortality. Yeah. We continue to see, poor. What's called medical tourism. So, what point do we then say, okay, you don't seem to be know what you're doing here?
Come on, be going. Anyway, let's just wrap up the Guardian newspaper. Still, just take a few more stories to wrap up the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And we've seen here 7 Nigerian regions or states, Tinubu charges new ministers. Nigeria's inflation to hit 28% by year end. JP Morgan projects. INEC and disturbing threats to November polls. Wike to step on toes as Keyamo Umahi others unveil vision for ministries. And I think that's all that we can take this morning on the front page of the newspapers. We're going to break. When we come back from the break, we have some more top stories to explore this morning on Breakfast Central. Please stay with us.